I'm here with Carol Goehausen, an old friend, and we decided to get together and have a discussion about the unknown. We don't know what we're going to talk about, right?
Right.
So that's the unknown. So where do we start? Carol is an artist. She's a painter, a wonderful painter. And on the way here, we were talking about how a musician is in front of the people, but what a painter is behind the scenes. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, right, because when I paint, I'm the onlooker and I'm observing what's going on without really being a part of it. So I'm not the center of attention, and it's much easier for me to, I feel nervous being the center of attention. So that's why I think that's a big part of why I like to paint and draw.
Carol, where are you from originally? Where were you born?
I was born in Panama.
Panama, wow.
Yeah, when my father was in the army, and he was discharged when I was 5 months old. So we moved to the Detroit area, and he did some a residency. He was a resident physician and studying gastroenterology. And then after that, we moved to Connecticut, and I grew up in a town called Westport.
Okay. And how long have you been in Ojai?
The first time I came here was in 1981 to hear Krishnamurti speak.
Wow, okay.
And then in 1984 I moved here permanently. And so I've been here ever since, and there's no other place I would rather live.
What brought you to, how did you find out about Krishnamurti in 1981, did you say?
Well, I found out about Krishnamurti much earlier, when I was 16 years old. My uncle came, and he gave, as a gift, he gave me a Krishnamurti book called Life Ahead. And that's a book for young people to get interested in Krishnamurti's teaching. And I read a few pages, and I thought, this is what I've been looking for all my life. And I just loved it. And so I read that book, and then I began reading several others. I read the commentaries on Living and Think on These Things. And at that time there was a book, You Are the World.
Sure.
And then the next year after that, when I was 17, after I finished high school, I went to Zahn in Switzerland to hear him speak. And
what were you? So you were in high school back then when you started reading it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess
How old were you?
16 when I became interested. I've heard that it's unusual for teenagers to be interested in Krishnamurti's teaching.
Well, I read him also when I was a teenager first time. But anyway.
And you became, were you really fascinated by it?
Well, the first half of the book that I read, because my English wasn't that good, it was hard for me because of the vocabulary, and so I had to look things up. But then it started sinking in, and I was like, wow, this is some great stuff, you know. I used to think, the first book I read was Think on These Things, and I was so excited. I was like, when I finished a chapter, I would go to the next chapter and read the questions before I put the book away.
Yeah.
And like next day driving around to college and so on, I was thinking about these things. Think on these things. So really testing it in daily life. You know, this guy is saying some big things. Is it true? You know? And yeah, it opened a lot of doors. And I went on to read lots of stuff later. I met him in Ojai several times. Yeah.
Yeah, he made probably a bigger impact on my life than anybody.
What did you do after high school?
Well, I went to Zahn to hear Krishnamurti speak, and then I went with my uncle to India. And I think we saw him speak there once, and Krishnamurti speak in Bombay also. And then I was in India for a year, and I think that I love the people, but the food is terrible, the hygiene is terrible, and I ended up getting really sick.
You weren't used to Indian food at that time, right? It was too spicy for you?
And I think that, I don't know what it is, the water, or I'm not really sure.
You drank the tap water?
Yeah, and I ended up getting really sick.
Yeah. course.
So,
No surprise.
and I lost a lot of weight and everything. And I think that although I enjoy the Indian culture and everything, living there is just, and of course now that I'm disabled, it'd be very hard for me to live in India.
Did you go to college?
Yes, I did. I ended up going to UCSB.
Oh.
And I studied art and religious studies.
Oh, you got a degree. You got a degree in that?
Yeah.
A bachelor's
Yeah, bachelor's degree.
in art and religious studies.
Yeah,
Wow.
two professions.
Oh,
guaranteed.
two different. You double majored.
Uh-huh.
Art and religious studies. Very good. That's excellent.
But they're fields, neither of them really brings in a lot of money.
Yeah, of course. Both of them bring a lot of depth and beauty, but money is a different story.
Yeah. But I didn't really go to college for that. I mean, I know a lot of people who go and study something in college,
right.
like business or engineering or something, and they just get a job and they're not really happy with what.
Well, I did that too. I wanted to pick a degree that would pay my, because I had to. I didn't have a rich father, so I had to, make a living. But luckily I found a field which I loved, which was computer science.
Oh, yeah.
So every job I've ever done, I've enjoyed it because I like the field. But I studied philosophy on the side, and music, and business later on as a master's. So.
Well, computer science can be interesting if you have that kind of mind.
Yeah, I discovered it in college. That's the nice thing about the American college system. You can take different courses, and then during the course of fulfilling the general requirements, general education requirements, and then you get exposed to different fields. And then I was thinking, should I do child psychology or whatever, economics? And then I started getting A's in computer science. That's how I found out, this must be it for me. What did you do after graduating?
I didn't get a job. I just sort of lived, and I've been painting ever since.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first time in 1981.
Okay.
And but I didn't move here until 1984.
84.
And the first time I came, I wasn't disabled. I wasn't paraplegic. And then I had a spinal cord injury in 1983 in January.
Oh my God.
And I came to the talks in 1983 in May, so it was only like 3.5 months after the spinal cord injury.
Was it a car accident?
No, I was a man I didn't know who was mentally unbalanced, stalked me and shot me in the back.
Oh my God. With a gun?
Yeah.
Holy. So sorry.
Well, the last time I saw him was at the sentencing hearing.
Oh, you went there?
There were 2 hearings. One was where no, actually, I don't think it was even. Yeah, there were 2 hearings. The first one was where I had to give. I was a witness and I had to give a testimony under oath in court, and I just explained about being shot and everything, what had happened. And the second time was a sentencing hearing, and after that, I haven't seen him since.
Okay.
But the year after he was sentenced, and a year after I was shot, which was 1984, he was sentenced. And that Christmas, I had moved to Ojai, and he had sent me a Christmas card to the San Diego address, and it was forwarded. And he signed it "Love." And I was like, oh. I didn't want to. I wouldn't even touch it. A friend of mine opened the card and read it, and I wouldn't touch it.
You've been disabled since 1983?
Yeah.
Okay.
30 years.
When did you meet Krishnamurti? You had an interview with Krishnamurti, right?
Yeah, I met Krishnamurti for the first time when I was 19. And, 17. I heard him speak, but I had an interview with him when I was 19.
Oh, where?
In New York City.
Oh.
He gave us some talks at Carnegie Hall in Manhattan.
Of course.
And so.
How did you get to arrange to go see him?
Well, at that time I was living in Connecticut, in southwestern Connecticut, so I just took the train into New York. It was very interesting. And when I met Krishnamurti in person, I was so nervous.
But how did you get to have the appointment even?
Well, after one of the talks, I wrote a note with my name and phone number on it, and I handed it, I think, to Krishnamurti was leaving, I handed it to him.
Ah, you said, hi, this is Carol, I'd like to see you.
Yeah, and I gave my name and my phone number.
Okay.
So anyway, a few days later, Mary Zimbalist called me, and she invited me to come to talk to Krishnamurti.
In person. You were this 19-year-old gorgeous woman.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what he thought. I mean, I think he saw me as like a kid or something. But anyway, when I was there, I was so nervous. I couldn't open my mouth.
So Mary Z called you. You have an appointment, certain date and time. Where, at a certain hotel?
Yeah, he was living in it was like, I guess, an apartment building or something called the Ritz Towers.
Okay, so
in Manhattan.
Start from the beginning. So you rang the door and you went upstairs. Who greeted you?
Mary Zimbalist was there, and it was apparently her apartment or her family's or something. It was called the Ritz Towers. That was the name of it.
Okay.
And it was kind of furnished with like old-fashioned furniture with kind of curvy legs. I can't think of maybe not Queen Anne, but I don't remember exactly. But, and so I was really nervous, and
so she invited you to a room.
Well, there was a living area, and I guess there was a bedroom off of it because she went and retreated into another room. I don't know what it was.
And then Krishnamurti came out, or he was already there?
Yeah, Krishnamurti was. I don't remember exactly, but I just know that he was there. But she was the one who greeted me, answered the door, and everything.
So there was a living room where you and Krishnamurti sat and talked, and then there was a bedroom.
It was probably a bedroom. I didn't really see what the other room was, but I imagine it was the bedroom because. I wasn't given a tour.
And Mary Z and Kay both stayed in this apartment, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where they were there, and she was very pleasant to me, and he was pleasant, and it wasn't that. I was just terrified.
So we sat there together. Here I am, and here you are. And who started talking, or you just sat quietly?
Well, I think he started talking. And I had read a lot of his books, and I'd heard him speak before, but I was so nervous I couldn't utter a word. And so he would just ask me. He asked me just like, "Have you even read my books? Do you even know anything about my teaching?" It was so embarrassing. And anyway,
you said, "Of course, I've read several books, right?"
Yeah, and so he said to me, he said, "You're shaking like a leaf," and he said, "Don't worry." He said, "I'm not this." He said something, it was really strange. He said something like, "I'm not this wonderful person, this great man." He said something, I can't remember exactly.
Like, I'm just an ordinary person or something.
Yeah. And he said that I played golf and I was +2.
What year was this?
1974.
Okay.
So he and he kind of got me, and then he offered me, he said, "Would you like something to drink?" And I think that I was kind of
it's trying to calm you down.
Yeah, and so he got me a glass of water, and I said, "Yes, water," and he brought me a glass of water. And after that I kind of relaxed a little, and we started talking about, he asked me about what I wanted to do. And I really wanted to talk about his teachings, but I was so nervous I couldn't say anything. Mm-hmm. And so he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said art. And he said, "No, not art." He said, "You should write." Mm-hmm. And I was kind of surprised because that's kind of what I'd always wanted to do anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like to write, but art was, from the time I was like 2 years old, that's sort of what I was most interested in. And I'd had people tell me that I was good at writing, but anyway, he said, "Well," and he said, "What are you going to do? How do you want to make a living?" And I had trouble in my family and things, and so I said, "Oh, I don't know. I'll do anything." I felt like, I told him that I felt that I wasn't really worth very much or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he said, "No." He said, don't compromise. Don't think that way." And he said, "Just feeling that you're worthless is not humility."
Interesting. It's self-pity, right?
Well, I don't know if it was self-pity, but I think that by feeling that you're not. Go ahead. You look like a cowboy. But anyway, I think that.
Hi, I'm wearing Carol's hat. Sorry to interrupt. Okay.
I think that a feeling of worthlessness. Well, it's partly self-pity, but it's also, I think that there's an ego there that is saying, you're judging yourself.
Yeah. I mean, at the center of self-pity is the self.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true.
And it gives continuity to the self.
Yes. Yes. And also, I think that, in a sense, if you want to accomplish something, no matter what it is, you really have to have confidence that you can do it. I mean, even if you don't succeed, if you try and find out that you're not good at something, at least you've tried and found out. But if you just sit around and say, "Oh, I'll never be able to amount to anything," and you never will, but you're never going to try either. Mm-hmm. I mean, you kind of have to make to put out effort or something. I mean, maybe not effort isn't the word. I don't think Krishnamurti would like that word. But you have to have initiative.
The move. You gotta move. In Farsi, there's an expression, they say, move from you, blessing from God. It's like, you gotta make the move.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, Krishnamurti would talk about initiative, that you have to have initiative. And I don't remember what book it's in, but I mean, after he told me that, it really made an impression, because I realized that I had to kind of have a positive attitude, and it turned me around a lot.
There was this 79-year-old man, right? At the time he was 79, and you a 19-year-old girl.
Yeah.
How did he look? Did he look 79?
Well, I mean, he obviously was an older man, but he had a kind of, he didn't really have very many lines on his face, actually. That was one thing I noticed.
Okay.
And also, not just physically, but his whole intent was very eager and kind of curious and explorative. He was always like, he was trying to find out. He had a boyish quality, in a sense, that
stood out.
Yeah, he wasn't like a lot of older people become. Their minds become solidified and
grumpy and.
Well, they become fixed. Their minds become fixed on things, and they're not eager to open to new ideas. And Krishnamurti wasn't like that at all.
Okay, so let's go back to the discussion you had with him. So he told you to write. What else? Tell me more about your interactions with him.
Well, yeah, he was asking me what I wanted to do, and then he gave me several scenarios, and he said I could sleep with 6 men. It wasn't really, that isn't what I wanted to do.
No, come on, tell me the whole thing.
And so then he said I could go to college and I could get a PhD. And I thought, well, I'd maybe go to college, but I wasn't really keen on getting a PhD. And then I can't remember what, he said several other things.
So several scenarios, and these are the consequences.
But the thing that I remember really that stood out the most was I could sleep with 6 men.
Sleep with six men, okay.
Yeah. And I was
I hope not at the same time.
And I was kind of surprised that he said that, because when he's giving talks, he's kind of formal. And
here he was kidding, right?
Well, I don't know if he was kidding, but I mean, that was a very personal remark to make. And then he was talking about my father. I didn't come to the interview alone. I came with my uncle. And,
I see. He was there in the room with you?
Yeah. And so I think part of the reason I was nervous is because my uncle was there, and he was kind of looking on, and but Krishnamurti ignored my uncle and spent the whole time talking to me.
I would do the same.
And I think that it made me nervous because I think my uncle was kind of angry that he was being left out, and I think that a lot of my feelings were because of him. And so Krishnamurti said to me that he started talking about my father, and he said that my father loved me, but he disapproved of what I was doing, and I think that
Krishnamurti said that?
Yeah.
He said your father loved you but disapproved. How did he know that? Is it even true?
I think it was, yes. My father's dead now, but it was.
How did he know it?
I don't know. Krishnamurti knew things. He was very perceptive.
He could just read it in you, probably.
Yes, and I think that
I don't know, just guessing.
I don't really, I don't know how to answer that because I don't know how he knew things. I mean, but sometimes he was just very perceptive. He picked up on, he understood things.
So he said your father what?
He loved me, but he disapproved of me.
Okay, is it true?
Yes, it was.
How did he disapprove of you?
Because of my relationship with my uncle, I think.
Oh, okay.
He thought my uncle was a bad influence on me. And actually, I think now that I look back on it, I think it's true. Both of them are dead now.
Okay, and more? What else? Did you guys talk about anything else?
Yes, I'm just trying to remember all the things that he said.
Yeah.
Well, he was talking about, remember what I was saying? He said, don't compromise. He said, find out what you want to do. I mean, he was urging me not just to take a boring, stupid job that I hated, but to really find out something I wanted to do. And he urged me to write. And I've always, in a way, I've always thought that if I ever wrote something, it would tie in with Krishnamurti or his teachings in some way. Maybe not directly, but the whole, when I say his teachings, I don't mean quoting him, but I mean the understanding that came from his teachings.
And how it's impacted your life. Right?
Yes.
Right,
Because I think there are a lot of people who just try to analyze Krishnamurti's teachings and quote and whatever, but I think it's a very different thing to just talk about his teachings than it is to understand, to really talk about what you've understood.
Yeah, because that's the amount which counts.
Yeah.
The rest is just theory.
Yeah, it is.
If you haven't applied or if you haven't explored those pointers and haven't, applied those challenges, then it's just theory. There's no point in repeating theory.
Yeah, and actually he was kind of talking about that in the interview because he told me to read his books and then read something that's the opposite and find out for myself what is true.
Great.
And he said read between the lines. Right. And so in a way, that's why when I was saying that if I were to write something, it would be my own understanding of what he taught. I think that's what I meant, like reading between the lines and making, he said take my teachings and take somebody else's and make it your own, bring it alive. So
exactly, it's just like the painting.
Yeah.
It's your painting at the end.
Yeah, right. I mean, you could look for a painter, you can look at in art books or on the internet of images of paintings of great masters, and some people just go outright and copy a great master, which is okay. But the problem is if you do that, you never really, you're not original. You're really not doing what your heart is telling you to do. And I think at some point you kind of just have to think, okay, the Buddha said this, or Krishnamurti said that, or but what do I understand? What do I make of it? How can I read between the lines to bring it alive and make it my own?
It's almost the definition of intelligence is to read between the lines.
Yeah.
To be able to read between the lines. So, and then how did anything else? And then I want to know how the interview ended. You were there for like 30 minutes?
Oh
45?
no, it must have been an hour and a half or something.
Wow.
I'm just having trouble because this happened.
I mean, this is 39 years ago.
This is 29 years ago.
39.
No, 1974. Was it 39?
Maybe, let's see, 84, 94?
26 and 13. Oh, you're right. It is 39. Oh my God. I guess
Time
I'm really
flies.
getting old.
It's crazy. You look good. You look like a 35-year-old to me. Seriously. You're doing something right. Are you a vegetarian?
Yes. And I don't smoke or drink. I don't take drugs. Yeah. I mean, I take prescription medication, but I don't take any kind of, psychotropic drugs or anything.
Right. Good.
So, but yeah, at the end, he wanted me to go to Brockwood, but I was 19 and I was really older than the other kids there, and I was trying to. And I asked him, well, why would I go to Brockwood to teach or whatever, and he wanted me to go as a student, and it wouldn't. My father never would have agreed to it, so I didn't really pursue it. But it would have been fun if I had been a few years younger and my father had agreed. I think I would have. I loved to have gone. But Krishnamurti, my life was really never the same after.
Yeah. So then you said goodbye and left, basically.
Yeah.
Hugs, kisses, nothing. Handshake.
I don't remember really.
And Mary Z was in the background the whole time.
Well, she came when he was discussing about my going to Brockwood. She came out and talked to me a little bit about it, and I think I was supposed to get in touch with Mary Cadogan, and I think I don't remember. I think she gave me an address or Mary Cadogan's name, or I don't remember anymore. And this was so long ago. What I really remember the most about the interview was not whether he. I remember when he was touching, when we were sitting, he was sitting right directly in front of me, facing me, and he had his hands on my thighs.
Nice.
And
sorry.
Well, I know it probably sounds more.
And you were wearing a skirt like now?
I think I was wearing pants. I don't know.
Anyway, sorry. Just being silly.
Well, he wasn't. He wasn't leering or anything.
Well, I know, of course not, because he's 79 at that stage. So.
Well, I don't know. That is not necessarily. I've met.
That's true. I know an 80-some-year-old. Never mind.
Well, yeah, I've met men and women in their 80s who were still very much interested in sex. But Krishnamurti didn't approach me in that way at all. He talked about me. He at one point in the interview he said, "If I were your father," and he said, "I'm not your father, but if I were your father," and he said something, I don't remember what it was. So I think he
saw himself as a father figure.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
And in terms of age, I think he was old enough to be my grandfather.
Yeah.
I had a grandfather who was born the same year as Krishnamurti.
Really?
1895. Yeah. So he wasn't.
Okay. And then 74, and then you read some books afterwards?
Yeah, I've really been reading Krishnamurti.
You've read a lot of his books?
Yeah, since. I still, even now on the internet, I get a quotation a day from Krishnamurti.
So you've read all the major works, right?
I don't know if I read all of them because there's so many.
Yeah.
But I've read a lot of Krishnamurti books.
I met somebody last night who was saying Krishnamurti is like a all or none kind of a thing in terms of study. You either have to give it so much and you read everything, or most things. Or not. I disagree with him because I think it's a well. You can drink a cup or you can drink a bucket.
I think you're right.
But nevertheless, the point is I read everything too, or most everything. So in a way I know where he's coming from, but I don't think it's a requirement for being able to drink the wisdom. You can drink just a cup.
Well, I think that if you read even just one line and it has the right impact, it can change your life. I think
not just Kay, but anybody's.
Right, and I think that a lot of people spend 40 years or something like that reading Krishnamurti may not necessarily understand it any more than somebody who's new to it, and it really makes an impact on them.
It depends how it's read. If it's just read by words or they're mesmerized by it, I think it can be useless. But if they're reading and then they're applying it, it has to be applied. K is an applied
Yeah.
thing. It's not a theoretical thing.
Yeah.
And once you apply it, then he's not important because he's just pointing something.
Yes.
He's just throwing out a challenge. It's for you if you meet that challenge. So you left Krishnamurti's home in 1974. You never met with him again privately?
No, not privately. I
Okay.
saw him in the talks. And that was before I became spinal cord injured. I didn't become spinal cord injured until 1983.
I remember you in the 84 and 85. You had a wheelchair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, you remember me?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
In
okay.
84 and 85. And I was there in 83 as well.
But I remember after the talks, Krishnamurti would, after I became spinal cord injured, Krishnamurti would come past me and hold my hands.
Oh, really? He remembered you, obviously. Of
I don't
course.
know.
Of course. I mean, if you spend an hour and a half with the guy.
Yeah. And he even mentioned in this talk something about medical miracles, but nothing's, as you can see, they haven't been in it yet. I don't know if I'll ever walk up. Maybe I won't, but...
He healed something. He wasn't really into this field. I mean, he didn't want it publicized and stuff, but...
Well, I don't...
I know a guy whose daughter was healed by Krishnamurti, and she had leukemia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, terminal leukemia. And
Wow.
Kay healed her. Carol, you want to say anything else?
No, I guess that's about it. It was very enjoyable. I thought I was going to be nervous. But anyway, could you send it to me?
Absolutely. I will send it to you.